first chapter of Civics Power Sharing, we discussed the case studies of two countries, Belgium and Sri Lanka. We found that both Belgium and Sri Lanka had diverse population and both countries got ethnic problems. While Sri Lankan government failed to accommodate its social diversity, the Belgian government successfully negotiated the social differences. What Belgian government did is, Belgian government shared the power between central government and state governments. Belgian government reduced the power of central government and gave to the regional government. This means that regional governments were given the constitutional power. They were no longer dependent on central government. Thus, Belgium shifted from unitary system of government to federal system of government. So, what is federal system of government or federalism? A federal system of government is one that divides the power of government between central government and state governments. The central government cannot order the state government to do something. The state government has the power of its own. State governments are not answerable to the central government, but both the government are separately answerable to the people of the country. Federalism has two or more levels of the government. For example, in India, we have governments at central level, at state level, and third tier of the government, Panchayati Raj or local body. So India has a federal system of government. Some other countries like Pakistan, Brazil, Switzerland, Australia, Belgium, Canada are some other significant example of federal system of government. In contrast to federal system of government, a unitary system of government is a kind of government in which all the power concentrated in the union government or the central government. If there are state governments, they are subordinate to the central government. Central government can pass on order to regional government or state government. UK, Afghanistan, Italy, China, Saudi Arabia, Spain are some important example of unitary form of government. Let's make a list of differences between federal system and unitary system. Federal government is a dual government system. Under federal system, we have two governments, central government and regional government. But under unitary system, there would be a single government, and if there are state governments, they would be subordinate to central government. Second major difference is compulsory written constitution. Under federal system, there is a clear written constitution. But in case of unitary system, it is not compulsory to have a written constitution. For example, England and France. England and France both are unitary state. France has a written constitution, but England does not. Division of power. In federal system, there is a clear division of power between central government and state government. But in case of unitary system, power of administration are concentrated in central government. Another major difference is rigid constitution. In federal form of government, the amendment in the constitution or the changes in the constitution is difficult to make. It is a long process. But under unitary form of government, constitution is flexible. The last major difference is independent judiciary system. Under federal system, judiciary is independent and supreme. But in case of unitary system, judiciary system may or may not be independent in the country. So these are the 5 major differences we list out between federal system of government and unitary system of government. Federalism has many important features. Under federalism, there are 2 or more levels of the government, the central government and the state government. In India, we also have a third tier of government, that is the local self-government. Each tier or each level of the government has its own area of work or jurisdiction. In this jurisdiction, each government has the right to make laws, to collect taxes, or to govern people. For example, the municipal community governs the people of a city. Now, this city comes under a state or a country. Thus, the state government and the central government would also collect taxes or govern the people of the city, because the people of city are also the citizens of the country as well as the state. Thus, the same citizens are governed by the central government, the state government, and the local government. Different tiers of the government govern the same citizens, but each tier of government has its own jurisdiction. Now, these jurisdictions of different levels of government are clearly mentioned in the Constitution. Means the jurisdiction of government is constitutionally divided. One level of government cannot interfere in the jurisdiction of others. Another important feature is the fundamental provisions of Constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of government. Means any one level of government cannot make changes in the fundamental provisions of the Constitution without consulting another level of government. Such changes require consult of both levels of government. And we know that under federal system, different levels of the government work for citizen. But sometimes there may be a conflict between different levels of the government. In this case, the Supreme Court works as an umpire to settle the conflict. Thus, in federal form of government, courts have the power to interpret the Constitution and the powers of different levels of the government. This means court can check the laws and the functions of different levels of the government. Next important feature is sources of revenue, that is taxes. Sources of revenue for each level of government are clearly specified in order to maintain financial autonomy or financial freedom. Each level of government gets its own share of funds so that it can work for the people of the country. Another feature is the federal system has dual objective. There are many diversity in each country. People speak different languages, celebrate different festivals, and practice different religions. Thus, it is the duty of the government to accommodate and respect the regional diversity or differences and promote the unity of the country. So, these are the 7 important features of federalism. Coming together and holding together federation. We know that in federalism, there are at least 2 levels of government, the central government and the state government. And the power is divided between these 2 levels of government. But the exact balance of power between the central government and the state government differs from one federation to another federation. That means in some cases the central government is more powerful than the regional or the state government. And in other cases the state government has more power than the central government. This balance of power depends mainly on the historical context in which the federation was formed. Means how did the federation come into existence? And there are generally 2 kinds of routes through which federations are formed, coming together and holding together. The first route involves independent states coming together on their own to form a bigger unit so that by pooling sovereignty and retaining identity, they can increase their security. That means a number of states come together to form a big and strong nation. This way, on one hand, they do not lose their sovereignty. On other hand, they maintain their identity and increase their security. Because when they get united, they become more powerful than before. For example, the USA. In 1776, 13 American colonies declared their independence from Great Britain. Then they came together and formed the United States of America. Today, the United States of America is a federation of 50 states. Then the USA is an example of coming together federation. In this type of federation, all the states have equal power and they are strong in comparison to the central government. Now the question is why the states are stronger. The states are stronger because they come themselves to form the federation. The central government has come into existence because of the states. So the states are stronger and powerful. In short, you can write when independent states come on their own to form a bigger unit so that by pooling sovereignty and retaining identity, they can increase their security is known as coming together federation. In this type of federation, all the states have equal power and they are strong in comparison with the central or federal government. The USA, Switzerland, Australia are examples of coming together federation. The USA is a federation of 50 states members. Australia is a federation of 6 states members. And Switzerland is a federation of 26 states members. Coming on to the second route. The second route is where a large country decides to divide its power between constituent states and the national government. Means in this type of federation, in order to accommodate its internal diversity, a large country decides to divide its power between the central government and the state government. For example, in India, the federal system was adopted due to two reasons. The first is the large size of the country and its socio-cultural diversity. So India is an example of holding together federation. Under this federation, the central government granting the power to the states. Thus, the central government tends to be more powerful than the states. Under this federation, often different units of the federation have unequal power. This means all the states of the federation may do not have equal powers. Even some states may be granted special powers from the central government. For example, in India, some states have been granted special powers. Thus, in short, you would write, when a large country divides its power between the central and the state government is known as holding together federation. Under this federation, the central government tends to be more powerful than the states. And very often the different states have unequal power. Even some states have been granted special powers. The examples of holding together federation are India, Belgium and Spain. Let's make a list of differences between coming together federation and holding together federation. Coming together federation involves independent states coming together on their own to form a bigger unit. Whereas under holding together federation, a large country divides its power between the central government and the state government. Under coming together federation, all the units or all the states have equal power. But under holding together federation, very often the different states have unequal powers. Under coming together federation, the states are strong in comparison with the federal government. But under holding together federation, the central government tends to be more powerful than the states. Examples of coming together federation are the USA, Australia, Switzerland, and the examples of holding together federation are India, Belgium, and Spain. What makes India a federal country, or what are the main features which make India a federal country? We know that after independence, many old states in India have vanished and new states have been created. And the Constitution of India declared India as a union of states. Although the word federation is not used anywhere in the Constitution of India, but India is considered a federal country because the Indian Union is based on the principles of the federation. All these 7 key features of federalism apply to the provisions of the Indian Constitution, and that make India a federal country. Now we will see each of them one by one. The first key feature of federalism is that there are 2 or more levels of government. India has 3 levels of government: the central government, the state government, and the third level of government, which was added later on in 1992 in form of municipality or Panchayat Raj. So this third tier of government is also called the local government. So India has 3 levels of government: the central government, the state government, and the local government. Now each tier of government has its separate jurisdiction, or we can say work area, in matters of administration, taxation and legislation. And all these tiers of government get their powers from the Constitution of India. And for this arrangement of division of power, the Constitution of India contains 3 lists: the Union list, the State list, and the Concurrent list. Union list is a list of 97 subjects. The main subject of this Union list is defense, foreign affairs, currency, railways, and national resources. Now the question is why these subjects are included in this list. These subjects are included in this list because these subjects are of national importance, and we, all the people of India, we need a uniform policy on these matters. The central government only can make laws on these subjects included in this list. Next we have the state list. The state list is a list of 66 subjects. The main subjects of the state list are police, trade, commerce, public health, and agriculture. These subjects are important for both the state government as well as the local government. And the state governments have power to make laws on these subjects. The third list is the concurrent list. This list includes 47 subjects of common interest to both the central government as well as the state government. And the main subjects listed in this list are education, forest, trade union, marriage, adoption, and succession. And both the government, the central government and the state government can make laws on these subjects. But in case there is any conflict between the laws made by the central government and the state government, then the laws made by the union government or the central government will be accepted. Besides these subjects, there are some other subjects like computer software, e-commerce, etc. were not exist when the constitution was being written. These subjects came in being after the constitution was created. So such subjects are come under the category of residuary subjects. And who makes laws for the residuary subjects? Only the union government has power to make laws on residuary subjects. Thus, the union government makes laws on the subject mentioned in the union list. The state government will make laws on the subject mentioned in the state list. And both the government, the union government and the state government can make laws on the subject included in the concurrent list. On the residuary subject, only the union government can make laws. Moving on to the another federal feature, India is a holding together federation. We know that there are two types of federation, holding together and coming together. In holding together federation, we have read that a large country divides its power between the central government and the state government. And all the constituent units do not have equal power. Even some states have special powers. In India, the power is divided between the central government and the state government. But all the states do not have equal power. Even some states have been given special powers. For example, Jammu and Kashmir had been given special status. Jammu and Kashmir had its own constitution and many provisions of Indian constitution were not applicable to this state. But this has changed after 31st October 2019. Now the state of Jammu and Kashmir has been divided into two union territories. The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the Union Territory of Ladakh. Now the question is, what is union territories? There are some areas which are too small to become independent states and they cannot be merged to another state also, like Andaman and Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Pondicherry, Chandigarh. So these areas are known as union territories. But when we take the case of Delhi, Delhi is different. Delhi has more power than other union territories. It has a legislative assembly, but it does not have all the power of a full-fledged state. Thus we saw that in India, all the states do not have equal power. Next federal feature that makes India a federal country is the procedure for amendment of the constitution. The arrangement of power sharing in the Constitution of India cannot be changed easily. Even Parliament cannot alone change this arrangement. If there is any change, it requires to be passed by both the houses of the Parliament, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, with at least 2/3 majority. Then it should be ratified by at least half of the total states. That means more than 14 states of India must agree on the amendment, then only it can be changed. Another feature that makes India a federal country is the role of judiciary. The role of judiciary is important in India. In case of any dispute about the division of power between the central government and state government, then the High Court and Supreme Court make the decision to settle it. Next federal feature is that both the central government and the state government of India have financial autonomy. Means both the government, the central government and state government have power to raise the resources by imposing tax to carry out their responsibilities. Thus, these are the main features which make India a federal country. You can write in short, India is a federal country because India has 3 levels of government. The central government, the state government, and the third level of government, the local government. And the second point is, each tier of government has its separate jurisdiction or work area in matters of administration, taxation, and legislation. The third point is, all these tiers of government get their power from the Constitution of India, and the Constitution of India contains 3 lists: the Union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. India is a holding together federation. In India, all the states do not have equal power. Even some states have been given special powers. And the fifth point is, in India, the procedure for amendment of the constitution is not easy. It requires to be passed by both the houses of the parliament, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, with at least 2/3 majority. Then it should be ratified by at least half of the total states. The sixth point, in India, the role of the judiciary is important. In case of any dispute about the division of power between the central government and the state government, the High Court and the Supreme Court make a decision. And the seventh point is, both the union and the state government have power to raise the resources by imposing taxes. The creation of linguistic states was the first and major test for our leaders in a country. If you observe the maps of 1947 and that of 2006 in your textbook, page number 18 and 19 of this chapter, you will find that after independence, many old states like Rajputana, Central India, Hyderabad have vanished. And new states like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Andhra Pradesh have been created. You can see areas, boundaries and names of the states have been changed. So what is the reason behind the creation of new states? This was done based on language, means the new states were created based on language by Indian leaders. The leaders of that time wanted to ensure that the people who spoke the same language lived in the same states. Thus, linguistic states are the states that were created based on language to ensure that the people who spoke the same language lived in the same state. The first state that was created based on language was Andhra Pradesh in 1953. After that, many states like Assam, Kerala, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh and Punjab were created based on language. There are some other states like Nagaland, Uttarakhand and Jharkhand were also created, but they were not created based on language. But they were created to recognize the differences based on culture, ethnicity or geography. But the creation of linguistic states, as I earlier said, was not an easy task for Indian leaders. Because when the demand for the formation of states on the basis of language was raised, some national leaders feared that it would lead to disintegration of the country. That means the leaders feared that the creation of states on the basis of language would lead to the division of the country. They believed that the people of the same language could be more loyal to their language and culture than the nation. And that is the reason the central government resists the linguistic states for some time. But the formation of linguistic states had made the country more united and it had made the administration easier. That means due to the creation of linguistic states, the country has become more united despite the endless diversity. And it has become easy for the government to govern such a large country. We know that India is linguistically a diverse nation. We have so many languages. And the creation of states based on language was the first test for democratic politics in India. And the next major test was the language policy. A language policy that could be a safeguard to all languages of India. Let's see the linguistic diversity of India. Page number 22 of your textbook. According to the census of India held in 2011, there are more than 1,300 mother tongues or dialects we have in India. These languages were grouped under some major languages. For example, Hindi. Under Hindi, we have languages like Bhojpuri, Maghi, Bundelkhandi, Chhattisgarhi, Rajasthani. These all languages are grouped under Hindi. Many other languages were grouped under other major languages. And even after this grouping, the census found 121 major languages. Means 121 groups of languages like this. Out of these 121 major languages, 22 languages are now included in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution. As you can see in this list, these languages are called scheduled languages. Other languages which are not in this list are known as non-scheduled languages. In this list of the scheduled languages of India, we can see that Assamese speakers are here, 1.26%. Means only 1.26% of Indians speak Assamese. Bangla speakers are 8.03%. And if we observe the whole table, we will find that Hindi speakers are 43.63%. They are not even 50%. Thus, Hindi is the most common language, but still only 43% of Indians speak Hindi. And that is the reason a constitution did not give the status of national language to any one language. Hindi was identified as the official language, not a national language. And as a safeguard to protect all languages, besides Hindi, other 21 languages were recognized as scheduled languages by the Constitution, as we are seeing in this list. According to this policy, a candidate can choose any of these languages to take the examination conducted for the central government position. Means a student can choose any one language out of these. And states too have their own official languages. Means each state has the liberty and the power to identify its own official language. Thus, the language policy helped in accommodation of social diversity. Unlike Sri Lanka, our leaders adopted a very careful attitude in the promotion of Hindi. As we know that in Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan government in 1956 passed an act that declared Sinhala as the only official language. The other languages were not given any importance in Sri Lanka. And that was one of the reasons for the civil war in Sri Lanka. But unlike Sri Lankan government, our leaders never imposed Hindi on non-Hindi speaking states. Even according to the constitution, the idea was that after 1965, the use of English for official purposes will be stopped and Hindi had to take the place. But before it could happen, many non-Hindi speaking states demanded that the use of English should be continued because people of these states were not comfortable with the use of Hindi. And in Tamil Nadu, this movement took a violent form. Thus, the government guaranteed that both Hindi and English will be used as official language as long as the state's governments want. And a leader said that it is up to the non-Hindi speaking states how long they want English to be used for the official purpose. And no one else had the right to decide for them. As a result, in 1963, Official Languages Act passed in India, which provides for continuing the use of English in official work even after 1965. But many people believe that English is widely spoken by rich people and this decision of use of English would favor the English-speaking elite. Thus, it was suggested by critics that the promotion of Hindi should be continued. As promotion does not mean that the central government can impose Hindi on the states where people speak different languages. Thus, these careful decisions taken by the Indian leaders help a country avoid the kind of situation that Sri Lanka faced. The center-state relations. By improving the center-state relations, federalism has been successfully practiced in India. And when we talk about the center-state relations, we know that in a constitution, there is a proper arrangement for power sharing between the center and the state governments. But after independence, for a long time, states were dependent on the central government. Means the states governments were not free to control their own affairs. After independence from 1947 to 1990, mostly we had only one party in the center and state. Which means for a long time the same party ruled for both the center and in most of the states. Thus in those days the states did not have the right or power to make decisions. They were dependent on the central government. And when the ruling party at the state level was different, means not the same party which was at the center, then the party that ruled at the center tried to undermine the power of states, or it tried to reduce the powers of state governments. Even the central governments often misuse the constitution. Means sometimes the central government made changes in the constitution to dismiss the state governments. But all this changed after 1990. What happened after 1990? This period saw the rise of regional political parties in many states of India. For example, Trinamool Congress in West Bengal and Meghalaya, Telugu Desam Party in Andhra Pradesh, Samajwadi Party and Rashtriya Lok Dal in Uttar Pradesh, and Janata Dal in Bihar. This period also marked the beginning of the era of coalition governments and alliances. A coalition government is when after the election no political parties get the clear majority, then many political parties join hands and form a government known as coalition government. And what is an alliance? An alliance is when before election several political parties, including regional parties, join hands to contest the election and win power is called an alliance. When after winning the alliance form a government, this government is also called a coalition government. The major alliances of India are NDA, UPA and Left Front. NDA is a group of 31 political parties. Thus, after 1990, in case after the election no political party gets a clear majority, then many political parties, including regional parties, have started joining hands for the formation of the government at the center. Thus, the regional parties become a major factor in this kind of government. They begin to play a significant role in the formation of government at the center. In this new culture of power sharing, the state governments are free to make decisions or control their own affairs. And this was also supported by a major judgment of the Supreme Court. Under Article 356 of the Constitution of India, the President of India had the power to dismiss the state government on the advice of the ruling party at the center. But in 1994, according to the major judgment of the Supreme Court, the President should exercise this power only after his order is approved by both the houses of the Parliament. This means with the agreement of both the houses of the Parliament, the President will be able to dismiss the state governments. Thus, this judgment of the Supreme Court made it difficult for the central government to dismiss the state governments. And by improving the center-state relations, federalism has been successfully practiced in India. Decentralization in India. So in this chapter Federalism, so far we read about the two tiers of government in federal system. But we know that India is a very big country, a very large country. Many states of India are even larger than the countries of Europe. For example, in the area Belgium, a country in Europe, is smaller than a state Haryana. And in terms of population, Uttar Pradesh is bigger than Russia. And Maharashtra is about as big as Germany. And most of the states of our country having diverse population. What is diverse population? Diverse population means people of different languages, different religions, different cultures live together in the same state. So with such diversity and large size, India cannot be run only through two tiers of government. Means besides central government and state government, another tier of government is needed. And that is the reason the process of decentralization started in India. So what is decentralization? Decentralization is basically a process of power sharing. When power is taken away from central government and state governments and given to the local government, it is called decentralization. Means in this process, some decision-making powers are taken away from central government and state governments and given to the local government, so that the leaders of local government can make decisions freely. So what is the basic idea behind decentralization? The basic idea behind decentralization is that there are a large number of problems and issues in each locality. and that can be best settled at local level by the local leaders. Because local leaders have better knowledge about the problems in their localities and they know how to manage things and where to spend money. So the power should be in local people's hand. And another idea behind decentralization is that at the local level, people can directly participate in the decision-making process. And this is a good way to realize the importance of political participation. Because for effective democracy, it is necessary that each citizen of the country can participate in decision-making process. So under the process of decentralization, panchayats in villages and municipalities in urban areas were set up in all the states of India. But these panchayats and municipalities were directly under the control of state governments. So these were not as effective as today we have effective local government. So why the local government was not effective those days? Because election to these local governments were not held regularly, as the local governments was under the control of state governments. So in some states, elections were conducted regularly, but in some other states, elections were not held regularly. And the second reason why the local government was not effective is that local government did not have any powers or resources for their own. That means for working on ground level, local governments did not have any financial resources or money. So in 1992, the Constitution of India was amended to make the third tier of government in India. After this amendment, many changes took place in local government bodies. Now it is constitutionally mandatory to hold regular elections to local government bodies. That means like state elections and general elections, now it is compulsory to hold a regular election in local government bodies. And the second change is that the seats are reserved for the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes. That means in some seats, only people of these communities are allowed to fight the election as a candidate. And 1/3 of all positions are reserved for women, which means in some seats in local government bodies, only women candidates can take part to fight elections, not men. And that is the reason that today we have more than 10 lakh women in our local government bodies. And the next change is an independent institution called the State Election Commission has been created in each state to conduct panchayats and municipal elections. That means as we have the Election Commission of India for conducting general elections and state elections, the State Election Commission has been created in each state to conduct panchayats and municipal elections. And the last change is that the state government are required to share some powers and revenue with the local government bodies. But the nature of sharing power differs from state to state. That means now local governments have power to collect taxes like property tax, professional tax, tax on trade, tax on advertisements. So now the local governments are financially independent and very effective. So these are the changes took place after the 1992 amendment in local governments. Now you can write in short, what is decentralization? When power is taken away from central government and state governments and given to the local government, it is called decentralization. And what is the basic idea behind decentralization? The basic idea behind decentralization is that there are a large number of problems and issues in each locality that can be best settled at local level by the local leaders. And at the local level, people can directly participate in decision-making process. And this is a good way to realize the importance of political participation. And the changes that took place after the 1992 amendment in local governments are, now it is constitutionally mandatory to hold regular election to the local government bodies. And the seats are reserved for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes in local government bodies. And the third is 1/3 of all positions are reserved for women. Then an independent institution called the State Election Commission has been created in each state to conduct panchayats and municipal elections. And the last is the state governments are required to share some power and revenue with local government bodies. But the nature of power sharing differs from state to state. Panchayati Raj system in India. In 1992, the Constitution of India was amended to make the third tier of government local self-government. This local self-government is classified into two categories: urban self-government, that is municipalities, and rural self-government, that is Panchayati Raj. So, a modern Panchayati Raj system has three levels: ZILA Parishad at district level, then Block Samiti or Panchayat Samiti at block level, and then Gram Panchayat at village level. So first we will discuss Gram Panchayat at village level. But before we discuss Gram Panchayat, we should know what is Gram Sabha. So Gram Sabha is the meeting of all the people of a village who can vote, or we can say all the people of a village who are eligible to vote are together called a Gram Sabha. So all the people of a village who can vote are the members of the Gram Sabha. Now for election purpose, each village is divided into many smaller units or area called wards. So what is a ward? A ward is a small unit of a village, and all the people of each ward elect a ward member known as Panch or ward member, but not a Sarpanch. So who is a Sarpanch? A Sarpanch is the president of the village. All the people of the village, not one ward or two wards, but the people of entire village elect a president of the village known as Sarpanch or Mukhiya of the village. So this Sarpanch and all the Panchs form a village panchayat or Gram Panchayat. So what is a Gram Panchayat? A Gram Panchayat is a council of the Sarpanch and all the ward members. So the Gram Sabha is a meeting of all the people of a village who are eligible to vote. And a ward is a small unit of a village. Each village is divided into many wards. Each ward elect a Panch known as the ward member. All the members of the Gram Sabha elect a president known as Sarpanch of the village. And what is Gram Panchayat? Gram Panchayat is a council of the Sarpanch and all the Panchs or the ward members. So I think you understood what is Gram Panchayat. And the Gram Panchayat is elected for 5 years. All the members of Gram Panchayats are elected for 5 years. After 5 years, again the elections of Gram Panchayats held and the members are elected. Now the second level of Panchayati Raj is Block Samiti or also called Panchayat Samiti. So what is a Block Samiti? Many Gram Panchayats together make a Block Samiti. That means there are nearly 10 village panchayats in one Block Samiti. These Block Samiti do not hold elections for Panchayat Samiti's council seat. Rather, the Block Samiti consists of all the Sarpanch of the Gram Panchayats and the MPs and MLAs and also the sub-district officer of that area. That means the block council consists of all the Sarpanchs of the Gram Panchayats of that areas and MPs and MLAs of that area and also sub-district officers of that area. And all the members of Panchayat Samiti elect a chairman and deputy chairman, and the Samiti is elected for 5 years. And the uppermost level of Panchayati Raj is ZILA Parishad at district level. So ZILA Parishad works at district level. The chairman of all the Panchayat Samitis form the members of ZILA Parishad. And it is the link between Panchayat Samiti and the state government. And the head of ZILA Parishad is chairperson or chairman. And its members are elected for 5 years. Means after 5 years, the election takes place and again the members are elected. So ZILA Parishad consists of the chairman of Panchayat Samiti of the district, and the head of the ZILA Parishad is the chairperson. The members of ZILA Parishad are elected for 5 years, and the ZILA Parishad is the link between the Panchayat Samiti and the state government. So that's it about today's video. If you like, please do like and share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.